Alright guys, so I had a friend let me borrow this book, and then she said if you want to keep it, you can keep it. This was last week. This is before all this stuff happened with everything with my housing and everything. So I used to listen sometimes to Nancy Lee DeMoss, and there's some stuff that I get that's good. But she talks in here about how important it is to forgive other people. Um, I think as women, I don't know, anyone can chime in if you want. I think as women, we have to kind of know what we're forgiving. We have to know, like, okay, you know, I need some time. I need to emotionally process this. Like, we can, of course, forgive people quickly and be like, yeah, I forgive you. Of course, I forgive you. God tells me to forgive you, and I forgive you. No problem with that. But then when we are dealing with maybe the consequences of an action of somebody or ourselves, when we have to forgive ourselves too, sometimes emotionally it's hard to forgive. I had an older woman tell me once, you want to emotionally forgive. And sometimes the emotions are still there, right? We do say, yes, before God I forgive. I will always forgive. But the emotions are still there. And I was watching Dr. Phil the other day, and he says, you have to give voice to stuff. When you are betrayed, my husband totally betrayed me, just left, just like that. And I haven't really dealt with how that made me feel. I really haven't dealt with that. I've just been like, okay, I tried to work it out. He didn't want to work it out. And then I just said goodbye. That's it. I don't ever want to see you again. So, I'm not a real emotional person. I tend to be very focused and go, follow certain directions. Like today, I was like, okay, what direction do I want to take with this? And what direction do I want to take with that? But to be able to feel, to be able to be like, how did that make you feel? And sometimes it's really difficult to let yourself feel as a woman. It's just, you've got those boundaries up and you want to make sure that you're protected, which I think those boundaries do need to be there. But you have to at some point, like the whole abortion thing, I didn't even deal with that. I did not deal with that for like 30 something years before I was able to dig in, and the can was open and boom, it opened wide. It was like a floodgate that just opened up. But we want to be able to deal with stuff, because if we just stuff it or sweep it under the rug, we can't. So like after the abortion, I just went on with life. I mean, I didn't have time to deal with it. No one talked about it. There was no support. And I had to survive. I was in high school. I had grades to take care of. I had a lot going on. I was dating. I was a young teenager. I was still trying to figure life out. And definitely that baby should have been given up for adoption. I mean, I wasn't emotionally ready to have a child, nor was I, nobody would probably help me learn how to take care of a child, even if I went through it, which I did later. I would have learned probably the hard way. I don't know how much support I probably would have had. Probably not much at all. But, later on, you just stuff it and you're like, it comes out little by little by little anyways. So you're going to deal with it one way or another. And then when you do feel it and you do get it out, when you voice yourself to something, it gives a stronger sense of forgiveness. You're like, yeah, I gotta forgive. And I have a video from, what was it, a few days ago, when I actually went into the restaurant and actually allowed myself to feel the memories come back of that abortion. And how did I feel? I did a video about how I remembered it like it was yesterday. But a lot of times we sweep our feelings under the rug. So how did I feel about that? I was surprised. I was surprised that the feelings were so vivid when I went back after 30 something years. I was not what's the word? Not not caught totally off guard, but the feelings were there, stronger than I thought they would be. They were. I mean, I just felt like it was yesterday when I was told to pay the check and let's get out of here. Trying to remember where my mother was parked, and I keep remembering that part, and it just, how did I feel about it? I mean, I still haven't fully processed how I felt about that. And so what you have to do, I'm telling you, God has to teach you over and over to forgive. So then you're like, okay, yeah, I remember just sitting there in the car. I remember how cold it was, and you have to forgive and forgive. And you can initially just forgive and be like, yeah, I forgive. But then when things come up, you have to keep forgiving. And I, for one, am one of the biggest sinners around you will ever find. So for me, I'm called to forgive, probably more than most people. So, same with my husband. When my husband pushed me, he wasn't repentful at first. He wasn't, and I told him to get out. And it wasn't just him pushing me; it was the emotional, the verbal abuse. I'm going to kick your ass, and all this stuff. So, yeah, I had to forgive over and over. Hey, yep. So I'll talk about this more later.